Hi, everyone. Mike White here. Welcome to this week's blog post. We're in the middle of a series of economic reports and data that's coming through to us well into the middle of October, approaching the fourth quarter with a lot of momentum, lots of things going on, lots of turmoil. And October for me is always the month of business planning. I spend a lot of time doing business plans with companies and managers and loan officers and certainly my clients. And a lot of this is focused around 2022 and what we see going on and what we need to prepare for. And the next series of blog posts will have a lot to do with that in the future. And so we have to start with a basis of thinking about looking into 2022 and dealing with the facts and the realities of what we're seeing. And again, this is across the country, and a lot of this becomes market specific, and you have to look at this and filter it down into how national events and things impact your local market. But it is a very strange time for the country in general. The mortgage industry and real estate communities are not without their challenges as well. And some of these things are directly linked to each other, and some of it is much more convoluted, although still as impactful as others. I mean, it's not hard for all of us to see the impact of inflation. You know, things cost more than they did. And while some people are fortunate enough to be able to absorb the cost of inflation, or they work in a position where their incomes have gone up in conjunction with inflation or faster than the rate of inflation, that's great. But unfortunately for some people, those inflationary pressures due to those circumstances mean that some people have to make choices, and they're not in a position to have to, ride the wave of inflation. They have to make some real choices about what they can do. And often that means doing with less as their budgets are blown or their opportunities that they have to generate income are eliminated because of this. And the emotional impact of inflation is a very real thing in all markets, as it takes a toll on people. And I think it's really important that we look at it. It's not a minor occurrence when you see the prices at the grocery store or at the gas pump, which all of us have to deal with in one way or another. And I get that this was largely COVID related, and the Fed saw this as, well, this was going to be transitory, that, once people went back to work after COVID and all this stuff, we were going to get back to a more normal market. And unfortunately, what we're coming to grips with, and even what the Fed now realizes, is that this inflationary trend is not, quote unquote, transitory. We're not just simply going to put people back to work and prices are going to go back to where they were. The supply chain is not going to instantly fix itself because people are going back to work, because latest data lets us know that in August of this year, 4 million people left their jobs. They quit their jobs. So, what's the reality of what's going on, and how are these people managing, and what is the impact in the country? We're looking at our supply chain, and people are there are ships lined up at the ports and they can't be unloaded, and any number of reasons why people are saying, well, there's not enough truck drivers or whatever. I don't know what happened to all the truck drivers. But it's really real, the fact that we have to look and prepare for 2022 and what that means, and particularly for us in the housing market, as inflation, which leads to higher rates and higher costs, starts to impact the housing market. Now, The double-edged sword of the housing market is that the purchase arena and resales are still very strong. Some of that has a lot to do with the people's desire to own where they live because of coming out of COVID and what has gone on in rental markets. Rental properties are as expensive or more expensive in many markets than owning their own home, and people are looking to fix their costs as they're seeing prices, their rents go higher. They're realizing that in many markets owning is cheaper than renting, and at least you don't have to worry about getting your lease renewed on a year-to-year basis, and you can paint the walls whatever color you want. The other challenge to the resale market right now is the fact that people are finding it's harder and harder to, with supply chain challenges, to renovate their current homes, and they just would assume go buy something that was already done to their liking, as opposed to try to figure out how to get it the way they want it. And if you don't believe that's true, I've had recent experience with that. Go out and try to find appliances. Go see what they cost if you can get them. Try to estimate what it would cost to paint your house. And if you can find the paint that you want in the color that you want, and what's the cost per gallon going to be for that paint. It's amazing how some of these things have changed in cost. If you've been looking, it is quite impactful to your budgets. And in many cases, budgets are blown clear out of the water because either you can't get what it is that you want exactly and have to pay up for something that you really didn't want in the first place. It's amazing what you're seeing. And inflation also has an impact on what monthly payments, the purchasing power of somebody's monthly payment goes down if interest rates on the loan go higher. That's just a fact. So we're dealing with rising home prices, which don't appear to be letting up anytime soon. We have new construction, which has been stalled in many areas because builders can't get all the supplies they need, nor do they know the price they're going to have to pay once they get them. And then clearly being able to renovate or remodel or do what you want in an existing home only puts more pressure on the markets. So when we're looking at 2022, we have to be prepared for what's coming up and to understand how we're going to deal with it. I believe purchase business is going to be every bit as strong next year as it was this year. I certainly believe refinances are going to significantly tail off. Clearly, you're not going to find a lot of people who want to refinance from 2 to 3. And let's face it, for those people who are doing 50, 60, 70% or more refinance business, their lives are going to change relatively quickly, but that's conversation for another day. This is Business Planning Month. We really need to get moving on that. As always, if you have questions or comments, it's Mike at imtcoaching.com, and we'll talk to you again next week. Take care.